First Watch Now.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler. First Watch on 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and our Commander, Watkins. Good morning.
Good morning, Cochise County. But before we get started really quickly, you have half a beat to stop by the store and get your employees something for Employee Appreciation Day.
Aha.
So thank you, everyone who's working really, really hard for your bosses, and thank the bosses for thinking of you today. So welcome, Commander Watkins.
That's awesome, Carol. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about, there's been a rash of incidents, and it's only getting worse. And so the Sheriff's Office has come together with multiple agencies, and the Sheriff has created the task force and with this project called Operation Safe Streets. So we really want to kick this off. So tell us a little bit about what we're doing and what people need to do to help us.
Thank you, Carol. So first I'd like to kind of explain why this is different and how we got here. So next couple months, it'll be 20 years for me in law enforcement. And what I mean by that is that we wake up and we approach a job every day and we're like, oh, hey, there's another car accident. Oh, hey, here's another pursuit. And over time, we become desensitized to that. And just last week, I was having this conversation with my partners of like, hey, we don't need to get involved in this. We need to continue our operational strategy of not getting involved and not pursuing individuals. That later that day, I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers. I was taking my 6-year-old son on a walk, and I live in a fairly remote neighborhood, recessed from any major thoroughfares, and I have a dog. And my dog actually pulled my son into an intersection. And thinking nothing of it, no big deal. 2 days later, which was Sunday, we actually were involved in a multi-agency pursuit where a subject, that was Monday, where a 16-year-old child had been indoctrinated by Snapchat and Instagram and some other social media platforms, came down here to participate in smuggling operations, and actually drove through that same intersection at over 80 miles an hour with no law enforcement officers chasing them. So let me clarify. The law enforcement's traditional practices is that when we see a violation or a traffic violation, we try to initiate a traffic stop. And if the subject takes away, most of the time, and atmospheric conditions will influence this, but most of the time, the law enforcement officer turns off their lights and terminates the pursuit because the risk is not worth posing a greater threat to the community. The reward is not worth that. So the problem is that these 16 and 17-year-old kids have been brainwashed by smuggling operations to run regardless. And they've been told that there's no punishment for any crimes they commit because they've been able to capitalize on some politics of things of juveniles not being prosecuted for smuggling. Unfortunately, in the state of Arizona, if you pose a threat to other people, we're not here to investigate smuggling. We're here to investigate the crimes of you causing harm to another person. So those children are absolutely held accountable for that. But what we notice is that we're going to have to completely change our operational strategies in addressing this. And that starts with educating the public. So what we have is we have every day, and I know that we and the public seems to be desensitized to things, and every time we're like, hey, this is a problem, we have the opioid crisis, we have all this other stuff. Every day we have between 2 and 10 incidents here in Cochise County where individuals will come down here to load up a vehicle with migrants, and they are, even without law enforcement pursuing, they are engaging in reckless, extremely reckless behavior of traveling through our communities at over 100 miles per hour. On Sunday, we had an incident where a 16-year-old child came down from the Phoenix metropolitan area, and she told her friends, hey, let's go for a drive. And she got 2 of her 14-year-old friends to drive down here because they had been brainwashed by social media platforms that on a Sunday afternoon their goal was to just go make a couple of $1,000. They traveled down here. They picked up a few migrants. Excuse me, on this one, they did not yet pick up the migrants. But they saw a law enforcement officer, so they got scared. So they started driving, and they started driving at speeds of over 100 miles per hour. And they went through an intersection, and they collided with someone. And now one of those 14-year-old kids may not live. The other 2 children are extremely injured, and they're in harm's way as well, but that 14-year-old child may die. So we have to, what are we going to do, and how are we going to solve it? And to be honest with you, we as law enforcement officers cannot solve this problem by ourselves. So that's where we're at, Carol.
So a lot of these families are coming from the greater metropolitan area, like you said, Phoenix, not families, kids. And we've even contacted some months ago people from out of state, from the East Coast. So it's a really widespread campaign to hire people to be these Uber drivers, if you will. So that's one of the things that you're really focused on is a multi-prong approach, but one of those prongs is directing people to put stressors on social media.
Absolutely. So this problem, this crisis actually spans across all socioeconomic boundaries, all geographic boundaries. It's truly a problem for everyone. And I have the evidence to support that as well. So we have a multi-prong approach. What we did is we created a regional task force comprised of state, federal, and local law enforcement officers who have changed their operational practices to preemptively try and stop these individuals from entering into our metropolitan areas. The practices of no longer pursuing people, no longer taking enforcement options to bring a traffic stop to a conclusion, to bring a pursuit to an end, we're not doing that anymore. We're terminating those pursuits, and we're utilizing devices and strategies to bring those things to a stop immediately, and we are taking decisive action to take those people to jail. So that's fighting in the trenches, and that's not going to solve the overall problem. Solving the overall problem is educating the public of, hey, just because you see lights, flashing lights, or if you see something on the highway that looks abnormal, we have to desensitize ourselves to, hey, may not be a traffic accident, or this is not another day in Cochise County or Arizona for that matter. I need to be aware of my surroundings, and if I see something that doesn't look right, I need to pull over and stop. And what I mean by that is Monday night, our officers were involved in a high-speed pursuit with a 16-year-old kid that drove through numerous communities at speeds over 100 miles an hour. And through the metropolitan area, our officers were not even pursuing. They didn't want to pursue because the person was dangerously driving through the neighborhoods. It wasn't until Huachuca City area that our officers realized, hey, we need to try and stop this person. This is posing a threat to the public, even greater than we realized. So that person drove into oncoming traffic, began heading northbound on the southbound side of Highway 90. The person began reaching speeds of over 130 miles per hour and had 3 migrants in the trunk of the car. So our officers were preceding that person as they traveled northbound in the southbound lane of Highway 90 into oncoming traffic. So we need to educate the public of, if you see flashing lights or if you see something that does not look right, you need to pull over and stop. There's just too many ways that can hurt you, and there's just too many options that we can't even start to realize that when people are having such disregard for human life, that you can get hurt. So you got to pull over and stop is one thing. Another thing is we need to have a unified voice in addressing this issue of these social media platforms, creating an option for these smuggling operations to indoctrinate and recruit 16 and 17-year-old kids to come down here and participate in exploitation of human beings, and then violently resist arrest or drive with such reckless disregard for everyone. So what I mean is that we need to start calling our congressmen. We need to start calling our senators. This touches both parties. This is not a political issue. If you were to take a pro-migrant open borders approach, you can't tell me that the greatest threat to the migrants themselves is, after the journey they face to get here, of being shoved into a trunk of a car of a child that drives it with such disregard for human life that they actually become victims of kidnapping and endangerment. If you take the other approach, then you have the threat to your communities and your family just driving down the highway one day and getting slammed into by one of these kids. So we need to start applying pressure to the social media platforms to start removing those posts. And I believe that's completely capable because they're able of removing those posts and other types of incidents, and we need their help. If we can remove those social media posts, then we stop the recruitment of these kids, and at the end of the day, our overall objective is done. We don't have a threat, or at least as great of a threat to our community.
And the parents can be the first line of defense as far as social media goes.
Absolutely. So if you have a family member in Tucson or Phoenix, call them and talk to them about Snapchat and Instagram. And we'll be putting a couple of those photos of what those advertisements look like on our Facebook page, and so that parents can be educated. But absolutely, parents need to be checking on their kids, ask them where they are, and be monitoring their social media platforms.
So that's really important. Even anytime, you really should know what your kids are looking at, and they don't understand. Their cars are involved in this. So, if somebody gets killed, they don't even know where their kids are at. For example, in the most recent ones, I don't believe that the families knew that their kids were in Cochise County, Arizona versus Phoenix, the Phoenix area.
Correct.
So they really need to pay attention to what's going on in their children's lives. And, making a quick dollar is not what it seems. It is just definitely not what it seems.
Right, but there we go again, is that the responsibility of this is us on a community to address this with these social media platforms, because, if you don't have kids, just remember how young and impressionable you were at 14 years old and at 16 years old. And when they can make $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a Sunday afternoon, and they've been told these things that have more influence over your child's mind than you do, the predicted outcome is that they're going to continue to participate this. So we need a unified approach in trying to get these social media platforms to remove those posts.
And we're going to be putting out more educational material on this as we go, and there's even more information coming out today.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Commander Watkins, we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you.
And Carol, who do we have coming in next?
We have Sergeant Gojkovic from the Cochise County Detention.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and Sergeant Gojkovic from the jail. Good morning.
Good morning, Cochise County.
Good morning.
We want to start by letting everybody know that the Cochise County Sheriff's Office is hiring detention officers right now.
Yes, we are. Currently, we have openings for full-time detention officers as well as part-time. As a full-time officer, we'll send you to training to get your certifications. As far as a part-time officers, you do need prior certifications from a correctional officer academy. But yes, we are hiring.
What are the qualifications to apply?
Qualifications, you must be 18 years of age at the time of hire. You'll need a valid Arizona driver's license. High school diploma or a GED is acceptable. Those are your basic requirements.
This is a good way to get your foot in the door. If you're 18 and you have a GED, for example, and you're looking for something to do, I know that there have been studies that there's a significant population within Cochise County of maybe a gap of where we have people between 18 and 24 who we really don't show that have a job or that they're doing anything different. So this is a way to see if this is something you'd like, and that's a good minimum requirement to get your foot in the door of a law enforcement career, correct?
That's correct. Make a great point. Most law enforcement agencies in the area require you to be 21 years of age at the time of hire. We'll accept you at 18 years old, so we'll send you through a lot of law enforcement training as far as defensive tactics, firearms. You'll gain communication skills, and you'll be able to build what you would need if you're interested in a law enforcement career.
So what are some of the benefits associated with this employment?
With employment, you'll receive a comprehensive benefit package, which is membership in the Correctional Officer Retirement Plan. It's a very good retirement plan. You'll have health care, as well as a starting salary of $37,632 annually.
When you apply at the county website. Where do they go to do that?
Under cochise.az.gov, you will find employment opportunities. Under that tab, you will find 2 detention officer positions. One would be Detention Officer 2, and as well as a part-time officer.
Once you get through the county screening, what's the process after the sheriff's office receives the application?
Once we receive the application, it's handed over to our background department. They'll start a criminal background investigation. As long as you don't have any felony convictions, most things can be worked with. We'll also be set up for a written test, a psychometric test, and CVSA, which is a computerized stress voice analysis test. It's essentially a version of the polygraph, but it's used to measure the stress in your voice and tell if you're being truthful or not.
And so if you're chosen for this position, what does the beginning of the job look like?
Starting out, you'll spend 4 weeks assigned to a field training officer. And during that 4 weeks, they'll show you the basic operations of the jail, how to manage inmates, communication skills, defensive tactics, the use of restraints.
And do you go to academy at that point?
After about 6 months, after you completed that field training officer portion, we will send you to the Correctional Officer Training Academy.
And that academy is called CODA. So what is CODA?
CODA is a Correctional Officer Training Academy, and that's our Arizona Post-approved academy that we send our officers to get certification.
What do they learn while they're at that academy?
You're going to learn ethics, professionalism, how to manage inmates, use of restraints, legal issues that could arise in a detention facility, mental or medical health issues. You're going to learn how to address those types of issues. And you're also going to receive training in physical fitness, firearms, defensive tactics.
And that's a pretty proud moment when you're pinned with your badge as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, they usually have a great ceremony where your loved ones, your family get to pin your badge on your chest, and it's a pretty proud moment.
So it's a certification, very, very much like a law enforcement officer certification, and you can proudly have that as a certified detention officer for the state of Arizona.
Absolutely. It's an Arizona Post-approved academy, so you do receive post-certification as you would in any law enforcement agencies in the state.
Well, let's talk about some of the different fields that are within the jail. We'll touch on these each individually. There's booking, transport, classification, floor. So let's start with booking. What does booking do?
Booking is the first stop of the jail when you're arrested. You'll be brought into our intake area. All of your arrest information is going to be entered into a database. Your picture is going to be taken. Your fingerprints are going to be taken. And all that information is going to be sent to the appropriate court.
And then there's transport.
Transportation oversees all the transportation to court appearances, medical doctor appointments, psychological appointments. Anywhere that an inmate needs to go outside of the jail, transportation department is overseas.
And a lot of stuff is done via video nowadays as well.
Correct. With the changes of COVID mandates, we do a lot more on video. So we can do certain court appearances are allowed to be on video. Others you have to be transported in person. But yes, we do use videos a lot now.
And what is classification?
Classification determines where a person will be housed within the jail. They determine factors such as your current charges, previous charges, if you have any sort of institutional disciplinary actions, if you've been in prison or in jail previously, and they gather all that information and they determine where it's appropriate for you to be housed.
And what does a floor officer do?
Floor officer is the meat and potatoes of the jail. It's what controls all the inmate movement during the day around the jail, security checks, meal service. They're the ones that kind of keep the jail operating.
And is medical part of the jail as well?
Absolutely. They're not detention officers, but we do have a full-time medical department with nurses on staff.
So you have all of those different locations or assignments within the jail that can rotate depending on people's strengths and their training requirements. But you also have specialty training. You touched on it a second ago. So some of the specialty training that you have. So you're in the jail and you have specialty training with a variety of tools. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Some of the tools that we use would be the tasers. We use pepper ball launchers. We have what we call ice shields, and it's a shield to defend against objects being thrown at you or attacks on an officer. We do have a bandit system, which is a electronic device attached to a person when they're sent to court and they're not allowed to be restrained, and it's essentially a taser.
And then also you have some other training opportunities within the jail, which include firearms, DT, CSVA, use of force training, K9. Let's go over some of those. What is a CVSA?
The CVSA is a computerized voice stress analyzer. And what it is we call it a truth identification system. And it's essentially what a polygraph does, but instead of using the tools that the polygraph use, such as blood pressure and your pulse, all we use is a microphone, and it detects stress in your voice.
And what is DT training?
That's defensive tactics training. That's where we learn to defend ourselves against attacks. We learn restraint use, how to use your handcuffs and other restraint methods that we have.
And use of force training, what is that?
Use of force training is where we discuss legalities of the use of force. We talk to officers about justification, how to document those uses of force.
And then you can also get instruction to be an instructor.
That's true. In these various departments, you can become an instructor. We do have a general instructor program. If you are interested and you show aptitude in one of these departments that we have, one of these specialties, you can become a trainer on those.
And you also have a special unit within the Detention Division, and I believe it's called the DRT. So it's like a SWAT team, but it's for inside of a detention facility. So that's another opportunity to get all of these trainings that you just spoke about rolled into one and be actually an operator on your DRT team, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so as an officer, you can receive training in all of these areas, but if you show as you said, aptitude or, a specialty in any of these positions, you can become part of a team, a specialized team to use these tools and tactics, in high stress, dangerous environments.
Let's talk a little bit about the difference between a prison and a jail. The Cochise County Sheriff's Office operates a jail. What's the difference?
There's a lot of confusion on the difference of that. In a detention setting, a jail houses pretrial inmates. Those are inmates that are awaiting court proceedings, but they haven't been sentenced yet to the Department of Corrections. Once you're sentenced, then you'll be housed in a prison.
So how long does someone typically stay in a jail?
That could ranges depending on your crime. If you're held on bond by a judge, you will remain in jail until you pay that bond. The court releases you, or you're sentenced to a prison.
Well, since you mentioned the word bond, some people don't know what that is, but let's take a step back. Kind of walk us through what happens when someone is arrested, brought to the jail, all the way up to courts and bonding, and kind of explain that a little bit.
So once you're brought to the jail, you're going to enter our intake area, our booking area. Your arrest information is going to be processed into a database. It's called Spillman. Pictures are going to be taken. Your fingerprints are going to be taken. All that arresting information will be sent to the appropriate court. Wherever you're arrested, there's a court of jurisdiction. Within 24 hours, the courts have to see you on what's called an initial appearance. During the initial appearance is when they read your charges to you and decide your conditions of release. And one of the conditions could be released on your own recognizance, or a bond will be placed on you.
Define bond, and then how do you use that bond?
A bond will be a monetary value. It's going to be a price set that has to be paid to the courts for you to be released from jail. And what that does is it helps to ensure that you will make it to your next court appearances. If you don't make it to your court appearances, then that bond will be forfeited to the court.
So you don't get your money back if you don't go to court?
Correct.
And then explain what a bondsman is.
A bondsman will assist you in paying that bond to get released from custody. If you don't have the full amount set by the court, bondsman will negotiate terms with you, and they will put that money up front to the court so you can get out of jail.
So now you kind of have an overview of what the jail system looks like, what it's like to work there. So remind us one more time that you're hiring. How do we apply to become a detention officer?
Sure. Visit coaches.az.gov and under employment opportunities, and you will see us hiring detention officers.
Well, Sergeant Gojkovic, we thank you for coming and talking to us today and telling us all about the Cochise County Jail. First Watch on KWCD Country, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch Now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and our next guest.
Welcome back, Cochise County, and we have the U.S. Army Intelligence Center of Excellence Command Sergeant Major Tammy Everett. So thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I love the titles you guys have. That sounds so good.
They're so long.
Yeah. So today is, well, actually this month is Women's History Month, and so we're going to talk a little bit about women in the military. So first of all, introduce yourself and kind of give us a history of your career.
Okay, so I am Command Sergeant Major Tammy Everett, the Command Sergeant Major of the Intel Center of Excellence in Fort Huachuca. I joined the Army a little, just under 26 years ago, May 1996 actually, to be exact. And the Army has been full of opportunities for me. It has taken me around the world, Korea, Germany, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of the Pacific Islands, Hawaii, Fort Huachuca, Texas. It's just been amazing. My family has followed me everywhere. We are a true Army family, and it's just been great to serve.
And what is your mission on Fort Huachuca?
My mission on Fort Huachuca is I am the Command Sergeant Major for the installation and also the Command Sergeant Major for the Military Intelligence Corps.
I like how she goes from the Pacific Islands and Hawaii, Fort Huachuca. I'm not quite sure, but there we go.
It's all warm.
That's right. There you go. Well, tell us a little bit about what does the future look like for women in the military?
Wow. The future for women in the military is really just endless possibilities. We've had just a great run of females getting senior positions, and the first. Just to name a few, just yesterday, the Brigadier General Nail was named the Deputy Commanding General of 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas. That's a big deal. Command Sergeant Major Veronica Knapp from the 101st Airborne Division. Our very own Command Sergeant Major Julie Guerra from the DAG-2. Those are all first females in leadership positions, and it's just great to have representation for the younger female soldiers to be able to see senior females in those leadership positions. And I couldn't imagine that it, doesn't do anything different than give them hope that they one day can achieve that.
Well, there are so many opportunities. So as an example, you have quite a staff at Fort Huachuca. What are some of the things that you have here locally for your particular area?
In terms of
opportunities for women, are there different opportunities for women? They're all the same. They're treated the same, but at least they can rise through the ranks.
Absolutely. They're 100% treated the same. On Fort Huachuca, you have everything from company command all the way up to the CG, which everyone here knows prior to General Hale was General Potter. And then on the enlisted side, you can be anything from a private all the way up to the Command Sergeant Major. Females on Fort Huachuca are 100% treated equally than our male counterparts. So Fort Huachuca, and being the home of military intelligence, which normally has a good balance of male and female because of our MOS, there is no there is no ceiling to what a female service member can do on Fort Huachuca.
So, since you've been in the military for, you said 25 years? More?
It would be 26 years in
Nice.
May.
What has changed for women since you first enlisted to now?
Holy cow. A lot. So the first thing, which I'm super envious about, is the maternity leave. So I've had 2 children in the Army, and we only got 6 weeks of maternity leave. And now service members and primary caregivers, regardless of gender, get 12 weeks. Of course, more of the obvious things folks have seen are our ability to wear a ponytail, not past our shoulder blades, earrings now in uniform. We can paint our fingernails. We used to be able to do that before, but they took that away. And then, just the opportunity, the opening of combat arms MOSs for females. In the recent years, we've had the first female Ranger school graduates. Females are now serving in, infantry units, combat arms units. Those things weren't available when I came in the Army. In fact, my first duty assignment was Division Artillery, 1st Cavalry Division, and I was only one of 2 females in the division headquarters. The only other one worked in the S6 doing the automation. So it's changed a lot. It's changed for the better, and I'm just super proud to be a part of it.
It's a great career path. I mean, you can start at 18 and then you can just move your way up. So here you are, with 25 years under your belt, and we can tell just from your enthusiasm that you're looking for another 30.
Well,
or not.
Another 30 isn't a possibility. 30 and under special circumstances, you can go a little bit further. But I'm having fun, and the people make the difference. The soldiers just motivate me every day to come to work. They inspire me just to listen to them and the reasons why they serve. That's why I'm still here.
Let's talk about the March to Service. What is that?
Yeah, so March to Service, it's for the month of March, and it's just really a call to get soldiers to enlist in the Army. So if you're listening and you're excited about the service, I'll put a plug in for that, and I ask you to go see your local recruiter. Reach out to us on Fort Huachuca if you have questions about the Military Intelligence Corps and all the possibilities that exist within it for you to serve.
GoArmy.com.
Absolutely.
GoArmy.com. That's where you find all of the stuff. So we want to thank you for coming and talking to us today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. If I may, I'd like to give a plug. On Wednesday at 11:30, we have our Women's History Month EO observance on Fort Huachuca in Greeley Hall. All are invited to attend, and thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. And who do we have coming in next?
We have Sierra Vista Police Department, Scott Borkstead.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch Now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your Sheriff's Office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and Officer Scott Borkstead from the Sierra Vista Police Department.
Hey,
good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
And you just had an event this past Tuesday, and I hear it was a great success.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was unbelievable how successful this thing was. We're very, very happy about it. It was the very first Sierra Vista Community Connect event, which brought all kinds of different service agencies together in one location, so folks could come in and seek services for various things: housing, food, clothing, mental health. We had legal aid there, veteran services. We were actually setting up, and about a half hour before the event took off, we actually had people start to show up to the event, and it worked out very, very well. Jay Matchett was the lead on this, setting this up, and he's got some fantastic statistics and numbers for us.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, it was a wonderful event. We were really pleased with the turnout. Some surprises. The average age was 57 years old. We were noticing that 76% were women. And of the homeless population, 86% were women and 2 were with dependent children. So it was kind of a little bit of a surprise in terms of what you think of when you think of homeless. And we were thrilled to find that a lot of them were here in Sierra Vista. You know, we were right on target with the location. People found out about it, and we were interested to find out that 28% of everybody that came were homeless. So we feel like that's a pretty good starting point. And about 50% struggled with their rent or mortgage, they said. So it's definitely the population we were after, and I'm glad they found out about it, partly because of the radio. So we're in the right place there.
And it was really amazing too, because a first event, you're always going to have tweaks and stuff like that and things to learn from. We were actually like 15 minutes into the thing, and one of the service agencies came up to me and said, "Hey, look, I've got folks that want to fill out paperwork right now. Is there a place we can go?" So we got a side room, set up a table, put up partitions, and we had several people sign up that day for services. And I think Jay told me that some of the service agencies have 40 follow-up appointments already scheduled just because of this event. So yeah, in my opinion, it was a great success. We gave out 69 Better Buck booklets, which was amazing, and we're going to continue this event. It's going to be the first Tuesday of every month, at least through September, at the same location, the Ethel Berger Center at 2950 East Fry Boulevard. Times are going to remain the same. The event starts at 11. We'll go to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're still going to be able to provide some food for folks when they come out. We'll have Better Bucks there, and hopefully, because of the success, we'll have even more agencies come out and offer services.
Remind us one more time what a Better Buck is.
Oh, a Better Buck? That is a booklet that was created. We launched in October. It's a booklet that has vouchers in it, $1 vouchers that can be used at various locations in Sierra Vista, so people can go buy food, clothing, toiletries, pet food, items like that. They can't buy tobacco, they can't buy alcohol, but they can use them for the necessities of life. There's also a bus token or bus coupon in there for people to use in Sierra Vista. It's a one-day pass, and that was one of the comments that was made at this event, that folks absolutely love that bus pass. It helps them get them around Sierra Vista, to where they need to go to pick those up.
Well, congratulations on the success of your event, and we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
You've been listening to First Watch with the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
Join us again next Friday morning, 7 to 8 a.m.
First Watch.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Only on 92.3 KWCD.